make sure it's hosting it.
What do you
But
use
yeah,
for? Do you just use SoundCloud for your podcast? All right, we're good.
yeah. I'm just using SoundCloud as just the audio podcast, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's good. I like it. I mean, I don't like the aspect that I have to pay them money to do it.
Oh, it costs
Right.
money.
Yeah. It's cost me. I think I paid them $180
Okay,
for the year,
okay.
and I have to do that every year, I guess. So you know,
I mean, it's
creating
a
content.
big platform, and they're
Sure.
starting to grow in terms of podcasts and
I
sort of
think so.
branch away from the like indie music scene.
Yeah, and I think what's happening too is um, like there's a lot of troll. I don't know trolling, but fake accounts and
Mm.
stuff that I'm seeing come up through SoundCloud. I'm assuming that's just because I just got onto the platform. This one get SoundCloud hits, get this, So there's a little bit of noise factor. I'm assuming the noise factors will decrease as start picking up more audience.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They'll get
at,
drowned out.
yeah, they'll get drowned out, right? Which is it's okay. And people have been asking me to do these audio, provide the stuff as podcasts, as audio for the longest time, right? And I've been meaning to do it, but there's a lot of back end work that
Oh yeah.
like huge, right? So my time is very limited. Like,
I
I,
see the activity on your Discord and the activity on your Twitter.
mhm.
And so I have I have a full time job. I stream basically full time. I Dungeons and Dragons, three different groups now,
Okay.
and I have no idea how you have time to do it.
Don't sleep much.
Yeah, exactly. That it's like okay, well I guess I'm sleeping 2 hours today.
Yeah, it's you know what I thrive on this. I love multitasking. There's a
Mm.
reason why when I'm teaching, I can relate to kids who completely detest the centralized education system because most people who detest the centralized education system, they're bored out of their minds,
Yeah, yeah.
right? They're being fed so damn slow. They lose their mind. Like they literally lose their mind, right? Some kids lash out. Some kids do this. Some kids get into drugs. Some kids get into the gangs or just, not even gangs in my area, but into destructive behavior, let's
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
right? And the only reason they're getting into that stuff is there's no stimulation for them, right? So I'm along those lines where I need to just hit it up, right?
And
Uh,
there's a sort of creative outlet that is also I don't know if it's just like serotonin or whatever, but when you're working on a bunch of things and a bunch of things come together,
mhm.
it feels good.
Feels amazing. Feels amazing. And it's like I do my work sort of on the same level that I recommend people doing investing, right? You should have short term, medium term, long term goals, right? And your vision, where how you want to be in this world, right? So that's the way I I create my content. I have short term things I do, quick, rapid. I have medium projects that I'm running, and I have obviously long projects that I'm running that I probably will never get done because you
The
can
big
never
projects, yeah.
yeah because you can never get done. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm creating math content. I'm going to create math curriculum. I could do this. I could only do mathematics for the rest of my life, and I would never be done,
Yeah.
which is an amazing thing. Like I don't I it's like living life. Do you want, you're living it. You don't want it to be done. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're enjoying it, right?
Okay, I'm
Like
done.
I'm
I've
done.
said all that can be said about math.
Right? The short-term project is eating my dinner, right? Oh, I'm done. Okay, fantastic. That was great, but I want to continue this, right? So that's the way I treat my work. And every now and then, I do need to take a break, and I take long breaks. My Bill Hicks breaks, as I call them. People who've been following my work for a long time, they know every now and then I go, okay, Bill Hicks breaks time, and I'm out for
Shut
like
everything down,
shut everything down anywhere between a few days to one time I did a Bill Hicks brace for a couple of months, right?
yeah. Oh wow.
Where I just recoup, recalibrate, reanalyze, go through notes, put everything together, and then come up with a plan because that's the next phase, and then you roll it out again, right?
Hmm.
So that's the way I treat my work. That's the way I do it. So
I think that's really good, and this is the second episode that I'm doing a podcast. I've done a couple podcasts in the past, but they were on different platforms. I'm currently using Anchor. I've heard a lot of like negative things about it, but as someone who's sort of like a muggle when it comes to podcasts, I don't really know much. So it
Yeah,
uses it to like sort of splice onto a bunch of different platforms. And
nothing
like
wrong with that.
I like on my way to work, I'll just turn on a podcast on my phone instead of
Hmm.
like listening to the radio or whatever. So I think there's a big sort of need for people to
Huge.
to listen to something audibly while they're doing something else.
Yeah, yeah, huge, huge. Because that's one of the reasons corporate propagandists have had so much, so much um, control over society. Because how many, I don't see this too often, and you know, I go to my interaction with going to people's homes where specifically homes that I go to where there's a TV in the background turned on with low vol. Like people need, I don't know why, but people need that noise in the
Mm,
background from the corporate propagandist anyway. I'm seeing that less and less. I've seen in like seriously 15 years ago, 20 years ago, uh, you went to people's homes, the TV was on constantly.
yeah.
Like it was insanity, right?
Commercials all
Uh,
the time, news is
Commercials all
on.
the time, and the commercials. I mean, the corporate propagandists at the time they lost a lawsuit. They had to the networks they had to change their behavior because what they would do is they amplified the sound of the commercials, right? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there's so much insanity that these like they
that's
literally have.
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. Like the show would be running at this volume, and the
Mm.
commercials would run at this volume because they knew during the commercials people would go to the kitchen to grab some food, so they had to kick up the volume to hit them up, right?
God.
Insanity, insanity. And there wasn't like I'm old school from the 80s, I was watching TV and stuff. There were, you could watch cable TV without commercials.
Yeah,
Commercials
yeah.
would come on at the beginning and at the end, and then they started introducing it in the middle, and then slowly over time you saw commercials. And then what they would do, the frequency of commercials would increase as the whatever you were watching was ending. So the first
Oh.
commercial would be 15 minutes in, and then 15. This was our show, right? 15 minutes in, and then 14 minutes in, and then 13 minutes in, and then in the last 10 minutes or so, you would be hit up with three different commercials, right?
More commercials than show.
More commercials, insanity.
Um,
So I'm a huge fan of independent content creators that are Creative Commons, hitting up multiple different platforms. That's why I'm on so many different, trying to be on so many different platforms. I wish I could be on a couple of more,
mm.
but my system's not handling, it's a hardware upgrade, right? Just to manage all of it, right? So it's fun. It's fun.
I once saw a comparison of someone recording. I think it was ABC, the TV station,
Hmm.
playing Seinfeld versus the Seinfeld episode on their DVD, and the one on TV was played at like, you know maybe 5% extra speed, like 105%, so that they could fit one extra commercial at the end compared to the DVD, which was slower. And it was like,
Hilarious.
are you kidding me? It all for one commercial, and that commercial probably costs like $10,000. Some
Yeah,
dumb
something
amount.
insane, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And it's totally different than what we do. So I don't know if you do this. I do this. Like for me, because there's so much content I want to go through. Like when I'm watching videos on BitChute or YouTube, right? I play them if it's really chill, if I'm focused on it 100% or whatnot, I'm playing at normal speed.
mm,
I seldom play normal speed now. At least 1.25,
yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes double the speed. Right, that's as max as they go. Right, so sometimes I got double speed going. I go from one double speed to another double speed because um, it's just
It's faster, it's better, you get more
it,
information in, you get
yeah,
more videos in. I've
I
not
just
reached the 2 point, but I've gone to 1.5.
yeah
That's my
surprising.
max so far.
Oh man, a two point is brilliant. Once you run 2 point for a couple of hours, and then even if you kick it back to 1.5, you get all twitchy. You're like, God damn, this is slow, right? This is too slow. What the hell? Why is life going so slow? Why is life going so slow? And just imagine, this is exactly how kids feel sitting in a classroom.
Yeah.
Exact. They're sitting there going, God damn it, this is like just imagine doing that 6, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, and then being talked to, where the teacher says they're stupid or pay attention. Pay attention to what? You've been talking about the same crap for like half an hour. It was done within 2 seconds. Like it's over. Let's move on, right? That's the way they feel, right? So
I went to a college preparatory high school. Not of my choice. My grandparents were very strict. Like, you're
yeah.
going to a good school, you know. And it was very much for me uh, uh, that situation. Some of the people that I dungeon master for are my old teachers, and
Okay.
they've talked to me and said, they could see my boredom, and I took that boredom and sort of made a self destruct out of it. Like I would just
Yeah.
not do anything and
Yeah.
just sit around and not fall asleep, but not pay attention.
Yeah.
But I remember I had an AP European history class, and the whole class was 2 hours of just taking down notes, just writing whatever was on the projector, and and it was a required class for me, and I wanted to
Painful.
just scream the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
the way I grew up. That's the way
yeah, yeah.
they're sitting there taking notes, man. Taking
I
notes.
don't think that is healthy at all. But I mean, I'm not in the education system, so I can't even decide what would help, what would be better. But I mean, this sort of thing for me, like I have found that I learn more when I talk about it and research at the same time, or talk with people about it.
Mm-hmm.
I absorb more information when I say it myself, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So through
Yeah. 100%.
streaming or through podcasting, it's really sort of helped me learn and grow as a person.
Yeah. Because the best way of learning is doing.
Yeah, yeah, hands
Period.
on shit. Yeah.
Hands on, not copying. Copying. Just you can put your mind into neutral and just write down
Yeah,
words without even knowing what it is you're writing down.
I'm not
It's
going
just
back into that notebook.
yeah.
No way.
No way, no.
I sat through it once. No thanks.
That being said, beautiful notes are a beautiful thing, right?
I
When
agree.
you, yeah, it's when there's beautiful notes taken, it's just like you look at it, it's a delight, right? But
My
that's more of the artistic nature.
my favorite thing is when a teacher would be like, "Okay, you can have one flashcard worth of notes to use in a test," and you would just write down as small as you can, and it's like a teacher's way of cheating you into studying, but
Yeah, yeah,
super
yeah.
fun.
That's crazy. There's lots of different ways to cheat. That's for sure. Putting on a flashcard is not the. It could be okay, I guess.
So
Could
how
be
long
okay.
have you been teaching math?
Uh 20 plus years, man. 20 plus years.
Do
I
you have a
started. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask if you had like a preferred sort of level of math that you like teaching.
Uh, you know what? I've done most of the work I've done has been high school. I've done some stuff in college. I've had students that have graduated. They go to university, college. They need help with statistics, calculus, linear algebra, whatever it is. They come and hit me up, right? And they're friends. They tell, oh, which teacher choice? So I have them up and stuff. But I'd rather not do college or university just because that's a stopgap measure. They're band aids. They're not like they're falling behind. I have no idea what's going on. The reason
Mm,
they really need help in general is because they didn't know high school mathematics,
sure.
right? So I end up teaching them high school mathematics anyway, and they're all antsy because they got a test coming up. They're saying, no, 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 but I need to learn this, and I'm like, dude, you can't learn this without knowing this.
Yeah, that's how
You
math
can't.
works.
That's how math works. Like you can't write an essay if you don't know the alphabet. It doesn't
Yeah.
work, right? So I stay away from college and university now. But one thing that's happened the last few years is I started going into elementary school. I'm getting a fair bit of number of students coming in from elementary school, and yeah, and the reason for that is because the education system has completely collapsed on every level. It's just pure garbage. Like literally, it's um, like I've been I've mentioned multiple times our centralized education system is bad, it's deteriorating, but all this jazz, right?
Mm.
But right now, it's a complete write-off. Like literally, you if like I don't have any kids. I have no desire to have any kids. Like, it's a huge responsibility, right? So anybody out there that has kids, more power to you, man. You need a lot of help.
Yeah, yeah.
Like really, I feel for you. But if it was your choice to decide to have children, hopefully it was your choice to decide to have
Hopefully.
children, hopefully. And if you have, then you better make sure you're doing it right. Uh, so you need to be proactive in your children's education. It's not just for the sake of your children; it's for your sake, because that's the best investment you can make. In the long run, in the limit, that'll save you more money, more headache, more heartache than anything else you might be investing in, right? In regards to your time, your energy, your funds, whatever it is, doesn't make a difference, right? And there are parents out there who appreciate this, realize this.
Yeah.
There are, unfortunately, a huge segment of society that doesn't really appreciate how far our current centralized education system has collapsed yet. They are seeing certain signs of it, right? Just now, because it takes a few years once it's completely gone, like the whole thing, when the
Sure.
flood comes through, right?
Yeah.
Like they're hearing something, there's a flood coming, right? They hear it, but they don't really understand what's going on and what the cause was. In the next 5 to 10 years, people are going to realize what has happened, right? And there's no building it back up. You can't work within the system anymore. It's done, right? The good teachers that I used to know, they're like literally they had to take mental health leaves.
Really?
They had what do you call it? Yeah, the good teachers that I've known, they either there's two classes, three of them really. There's the ones that retired, right? There were good teachers out there, and there are still good teachers out there. Really, there are people who care, right? However, the system, there's so much bureaucracy within the system right now. There's so much um, sensitivity training. There's so many things that you cannot say or do that teachers' hands are tied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If they see a kid who's super intelligent, who realizes what's wrong in the world, the teacher really doesn't have the power, the means, or the authority to talk to them about some of those issues, right? And if they talk to them about some of those issues, they have to talk to them on the level that is approved of according to centralized state.
Yeah, beat around the bush about everything.
It's
They're so
like
tied back.
so tied back, right? And there's more and more kids flying through the cracks, right? So there's the good teachers that I've seen, the ones that I knew, they've retired. There's a handful, a third of them, I guess, had mental health issues and they're gone, right? And the other third that I've seen, they start out meaning to do well and they get burnt out over time.
Mm.
Now, this is general in the seriously centralized, controlled education system that I'm seeing, right? May it be private or public, right? Because private schools are also centrally controlled, right?
Yes.
A lot of them, right? And they have their own doctrines and indoctrination methods, and it's pretty horrendous actually. I've had a
Weird
lot of students
cult stuff.
cult. It's cult, right? Like I've anyway, we won't go down that route.
Yeah.
However, there are certain independent schools out there where they've been able to acquire teachers uh, that really care about the kids. They're few and far in between. Like really, I'm working with one of them in the town that I'm in right now,
Hmm.
and this is hands down the best school, uh, teachers, administrations that I've ever worked with, because they
That's good.
bend over backwards to accommodate the kids, right? What and it's not just the kids, but the family, because they've got the family involved in the whole thing, right?
Hmm.
Which is what is absolutely 100% needed. The family must be involved with the education of the children.
But then the
Once
next
they're
generation.
it's 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 who you're gonna have to live with.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
make sure they're educated properly. They have the tools at their disposal to make sure they can live as free, independent human beings and
Hmm.
make the right decisions. because life is brutal. You make one wrong choice, and man, that thing's gonna knock you out,
Yeah,
right?
I think the current just sort of cycle of education is busted in a fundamental state because you've got these kids like you grow up, you go through school, you get married, you have kids, whatever. Your kid goes
Oh, hold
through.
on. Can we put a little disclaimer there?
Sure.
You might want to get married and you
Oh yeah.
might want to have kids.
Yeah. Sure.
Sorry, I interrupted your train of thought.
So in theory, there's this one family. They go to school, they get married, they have kids, whatever, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, and their kid goes through elementary school and needs help with their math homework, but they were either uh, under or overstimulated in high school and didn't care about high school, or weren't challenged enough and either forgot about math or weren't taught math properly or any subject. And when their kid needs it, they're not there to help because they can't, because they as people they cannot. So then maybe they don't have the education to, or the funds to hire someone other than the teacher that doesn't care because they're either burnt out or they're part of the quote unquote system where they've been sort of brainwashed
Or they don't have the time.
yeah, exactly, like
You got 30 kids.
exactly, they're in a class of like 30-35 kids, and the teacher's just like, well, fuck it, I don't have the time for it.
Yeah, they just they can't. Like for me, I've done sessions with large groups, right? And I won't do sessions. I have in the last couple of years, 2 3 years, a couple of sessions with larger than 10. But for myself personally, I would never take it more than 10. And I would, if I was doing a group, I would try to make sure it's nothing more than five. And I would selectively pick students that I knew that could function together, or at least they were on the same level. So when I was teaching them, I wasn't under teaching or over teaching,
Yeah.
right? So you have to group them according to the knowledge, not age, which is what our centralized system is about. It brings up everyone at the
At the
same
same
age
time,
level,
yeah.
at the same age. What does age have to do with anything regarding knowledge, information, experience, desires, wants? It, like, I don't, I still have friends that from high school that I interact with that are my age,
Hmm.
but I don't interact with them on a daily basis. I might see them once every 2 years, once every
Sure.
year, maybe talk to them online, maybe once every 6 months. As you grow older, as you grow up, maybe when you're a toddler, you need a 2-year-old to interact with, right? But as you grow up, age becomes irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? So the whole structure of our central education system is just completely
And
horrendous.
we've seen time and time again. There's like headline, 12-year-old kid gets admitted into Harvard or some college. Like there's this brilliant mind
Hmm.
that would otherwise be wasted in
Yeah.
a sort of normalized education system, and
Yeah.
just going through the steps of year by year, slugging through it.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, there's more people who they might go through a year of school and not completely understand everything, and then they're told that that's bad, and that if they don't graduate to the next grade or level, that they're a bad student and they're
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah.
they're negative, and that leads to problems of its own. And
Yeah.
maybe they just needed a little bit more time in that one section of their life.
Yeah.
And
And
there's
maybe life was happening to them.
yeah, could be
Like,
ulterior stuff like
and usually it's not the curriculum, it's not the material that kids have a hard time with. It's life that they're having a hard time with. May it be family, may it be their peers, may it be the school, may it be diet. Maybe they're having
mm,
health issues. Maybe going through puberty for them is way more traumatizing than the rest of the class,
yeah,
right? Maybe. There's so many maybes out there. Maybe they have thoughts of exploring Mars and going into space, and they don't know how to go about it. Maybe they're lost in a dream world where they're exploring consciousness, right? They're trying
sure,
to answer questions of who they are, where they are, what it's about. And it's not just adults that do this. kids do this.
They're people too.
There are people too. They try to figure out what's this about, right? So there's so much at play, and meanwhile, bell rings, and they got to start thinking about history,
Yeah.
history, according to the central. This is the history, right? Oh yes, do they still teach lone gunman? Oswald shot JFK in school in the United States. I don't know.
I don't know. I was taught
Uh,
that. But
yeah, like I was taught that, but the teacher that I had, history teacher that I had, was so brilliant that, and he was a phenomenal teacher. I've only had a handful of phenomenal teachers in my life, right? And I've only had one fantastic math teacher in my life, and it wasn't because she knew math well; it was because she was an extremely kind person.
mm,
But in history, and I went up to this teacher, by the way, doing our 25th year high school reunion, and I went to it. And I went up to this person and I told him, I said, hey, listen, you did good. You planted seeds during your classes that lasted a long time. And he goes, oh, how? What? And he didn't remember this, by the way, how he taught this. He goes, he was teaching us, and I'm in Canada, and he was teaching us assassination of JFK and stuff like this.
sure.
And the way he was teaching it was, he said, oh, yeah, Oswald, because the curriculum says you have to teach that.
Yeah.
But this is the way he taught it. He said, "Oh yeah, Oswald was hanging out the window of the library's suppository, whatever it is, and shot the bullet, and the bullet, and he shot multiple bullets, bam, 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 and he did this animated. He was very animated to a certain degree, animated, and the bullet flew, and then going at this speed, and then hit the bone, and then went 90 degrees this way, and then hit the thing, and it went this way, and then went boom,
The magic bullet.
the magic bullet." I was sitting there at the time. I was a kid, right? Like I don't know how I was sitting at the time going, how the hell is that possible? Like, and it wasn't,
Yeah.
right? And that's what he planted. It wasn't. It's fiction, right? How many teachers are doing that now? I don't know. I don't know.
You hear stories, sort of bad stories about teachers no longer wanting or teaching the opposite, saying that the Holocaust never happened, and
They teaching. Oh yeah,
like they're taking it out of a book in a certain school, and these teachers are teaching as if this major historic event didn't happen. And it's like, what
they're
are you
doing
doing?
it in class right now.
No, these are stories. You know, these are
Oh,
things
okay,
that
okay.
crop up, like a
I'm like,
random
God,
school.
U.S. education. It's worse
For
than
the
I
most
thought.
part,
What's going on?
for the most part, I believe that 99% of all schools in America are still teaching the Holocaust, which is great. But when I was growing up, I just saw a thread on Twitter about this. I was told about the obviously Abraham Lincoln, the freeing of the slaves, the Emancipation Proclamation. I was taught all that stuff, but we never celebrated or talked about Juneteenth. The
Juneteenth. This is something that just recently hit me.
exactly.
Like I've never heard about it. What like
I went through 12 years of school or whatever, and growing up all around my area is very much a the South meets the North area. There's a lot of
Okay.
hicks around here, and a lot of less than ideal racist people, and
and they
I
exist in the north as well.
yeah
Right?
yeah yeah
Yeah, they exist
everywhere.
Racism is not contained in a pocket
Yeah.
here. Like every culture, every color, every creed, every religion, everybody has racism.
Hmm.
Okay.
I was never told to celebrate Juneteenth. I was never told that it was even a thing that could be on your radar, and it never occurred to me that it would be something that should be celebrated until recent events. And now, obviously, as a changed person and with a changed mind, I believe that it should be celebrated. And at least here in my state, it is a holiday. And I think the banks got off a little early because it's a holiday yesterday. So I guess that's good.
The banks always get off. They get everything.
Everything. They get my money. They get off
They
time.
get money. They get everybody's money. They get the bailouts. They get the handouts. They get to write the laws. They get to rule the government. They get to do everything.
So I think there's a big misstep and misguidance in terms of education. And it's interesting for me to hear from your perspective, living in Canada, that you were taught. Were you always living in Canada, or
I've been here since 78,
um,
1978.
so
So I was originally born in Iran, Armenian ancestry, born in Iran, and we immigrated to Canada in 1978, about 2 months, 3 months before the Shah uh, was run out of Iran during the
that's
revolution, beginning stage of the revolution. So um, we were lucky; we got
yeah,
out,
it's good timing.
right? For us anyway, because
Mm.
we're in the south of Iran as well, where as soon as the revolution happened, the United States gave the go ahead to Saddam Hussein to invade Iran, right? So, and they gave him weapons, chemical
Yeah,
weapons,
of course.
satellite, everything. Like the United States basically said, "Yeah, you're a little puppet, Saddam Hussein. You're a bitch. Go invade Iran." Right? Literally, that was
Yeah, yeah.
exactly what happened. And every Iranian, everyone in the Middle East knows this. Like majority of people in the world know this, that the Iran-Iraq war was instigated by the United States, given the and chemical weapons was used to supply. Like everyone knows this, and Iran took uh, uh, the case to uh, the World Court, saying, "Hey, listen, they're using chemical weapons on us. This is illegal." And the United States kept on to the United Nations. The United Nations kept on vetoing it. Right? No, no, they're not using chemical weapons. Like, dude,
So they
you're
are.
supplying you're supplying the chemical weapons to them that you're using it, right? So we were lucky. We got out. We got out, and in the South, that's where a lot of the war was happening. So a lot
I
of my
see.
childhood friends and stuff during that period, I don't know how many, a few would have died because a million Iranians died.
Hmm.
And Iran at the time was during the revolution. They were low on funds. Like the whole everything got flipped, right? I mean, the United States, everything hasn't even flipped is in chaos, right? Just imagine if everything flips, how chaotic the country might be.
Yeah.
The the power structure, the military, just everything. And all of a sudden they get invaded. Supplied one of the most powerful militaries at the time, right? Iran had a good military at the time. The Shah was buying weapons off the yin yang
Hmm.
from the West, right? But that supply died off pretty fast and was connected to Iran Contra. And there's a huge story behind all that, right? Most people don't know this. They should. They
I was
should.
not taught this. I was
No,
just I was
no,
just
you wouldn't
about
have.
to mention.
You wouldn't have been taught this.
So it's interesting to me that as a Canadian you were taught about the American president being assassinated. Um,
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. It's an
uh,
important event. JFK was. It's That's when a lot of people will consider the coup to take over the United States government happened,
yeah,
right? And they've the coup leaders have ruled the United States ever since.
yeah.
A
So
lot of people
it's
consider that moment.
a big turning point and a big it's obviously it involves a world leader, and we're neighboring countries. Um, but then in my history classes, in American or U.S. history, we learned about the birth of the nation, the Boston Tea Party, the Revolutionary War, all this nice sort of sounding stuff. We never learn any of the gruesome details about it, and we also never learn coming up into more modern history. It might stop at the Vietnam War. Like that's where my education on U.S. history stopped. Anything
Did they?
with the Korean War, Desert Storm, the
No.
involvement with Iran, the new involvement with the Iraqi War, like none of
Nothing.
this stuff. It just stopped. Hard stop. We don't talk about this. The last 40 years of American history, we don't teach this, and it's like this is current events. These all add up. These all shape up to what the world is today, and we might not want to admit that we've had this big impact on things, this big negative impact, but people need to know, especially when they're young and impressionable information wise, they need to know the ramifications of your actions,
Yeah.
and they need
Ron
to
Paul
know.
called it blowback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, blowback.
Blowback.
And not teaching that is you're just turning a blind eye. You're making these people ignorant, and then they make decisions based on that, and that just sort of down spirals into this crazy time that we're in right now.
Yeah. They're generating a reactionary society, right? Which is what they want, what power wants, because it's easy to co-opt, to hijack a movement that is a reactionary movement. If if a movement has a core foundation to it where they they have they understand their place in history, right? Where they're not just lashing out as you know as a temper tantrum,
Sure.
right? Then that can't be co-opted as easily. When a kid is having a temper tantrum, you just leave them alone for a while and they burn themselves out.
Yeah.
Period. That's all you do. You don't engage with them or anything like this. You let them burn themselves out, and then once they're exhausted, you direct them towards their bedroom, or you give them a bowl of cereal, or you
Yeah,
give them a little
something
bit of
that you
fruit.
want.
Something that you want to do for them, right? Or to them. They're specifically speaking with the centralized state to them, okay, or use them for, and that's it. They're done, right? It's like floodgate. Uh, this is an analogy that my father has taught me.
Mm.
Many moons ago, he taught me this because he worked construction. He worked on dams and stuff like this. It's
Sure.
like there's one similarity between every dam in the world. Every dam in the world has one thing in common. They have something called a floodgate, right? So when the water levels rise too high, right? Sometimes the floodgates aren't big enough and the dam collapses, right? But ideally, every dam that you build has a little floodgate. When the water level rises too high, you open up the floodgates and flood things out. The pressure decreases and the dam remains,
Mm.
right? That's centralized power. Centralized power has that, and they do that all the time. When they see the pressure rising a little bit, they create a little diversion here, a little control here, a little this here, a little this here, and people focus all their energy there for as long as required, right? They can monitor all this stuff, big data. When is the peak happening? It's just data, really now, right? You can control the mass population,
Yeah.
hundreds of millions of people, but just looking at the data.
Yeah.
Where are they going? Oh, okay, push it this way, right? Uh, so that's what they do. Like Sanders floodgate. Was it a real movement? Not really. You should have seen that in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah.
He,
The first
he,
time
he
around.
the first time around, right? Well, what did George Bush say? Fool me once, fool me again, fool me, something like that. I'm trying to quote him exactly, but I can't quote him exactly because it's ridiculous, right? And he was playing a ridiculous part.
Yeah.
That was his role as a puppet.
I
That way
think
the anger went.
I think that floodgate like really makes sense, especially because you see it time and time again, and people always say it, but they never learn from it. This, oh, we'll forget about this in 2 weeks. This is just how America works. So this issue arises. 2 weeks later, no one remembers it.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of the entire global pandemic, the COVID-19 stuff, when people were inside trading, Congress members were inside trading because of it.
Yeah.
No one remembers that. They never got charged for anything. They never got put in jail. They don't care. They made millions of dollars off of the deaths of people, and no one cares.
Yeah. And that you know how stupid those representatives are in government by what they do. They actually did this. That's the kicker.
Yeah,
They
it's
actually
not
did
a
this.
false claim. They literally did it.
They really they didn't realize. Oh, they could do other things. They could have like they don't even know the market well enough to be able to make the right moves. They could have gone out and said, like for example, let's say you own a certain number of shares,
Sure,
right? So let's say you own 100 shares of Amazon, right? If you
it's
think
pretty good.
Amazon's going to, yeah, or 0.0001 whatever per billionth share, right? If you own this many shares of something, right? You could sit there and just buy puts on that
Yeah,
share, right? And just say, "Oh, I'm locking in profits." That's your excuse. I locked in profits on all my holdings and bought puts in and everything.
sure.
Market collapses down 10,000 points. You sell all those puts, man, you just made way more money than they did selling their stocks. What a bunch of idiots. Like, and these people run your government. They're so stupid. They can't even they can't even make a decision of knowing what's coming, hiding that information from the general public. So they were so, what's the word we can't say on you on Twitch? They're such dum dums that they couldn't take that same position, right? Instead of locking in $2 million worth of profit for last 15 years, they could have put in, let's say, $20,000 and cashed out $20 million,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's the difference. And these people are running your governments or our governments,
yeah.
right? They're just
It's
tools. They're just
yeah.
puppets.
There,
They're just puppets.
it's insane to me that this what I live in is still considered a democracy, and I don't think enough
And that's
people.
funny.
Yeah, I don't think enough people know that everything happening is not a democracy. This is
No,
not the definition of a democracy, and which is I didn't vote in 2016. I'm not going to vote this year.
no.
I think it's a waste of time.
Mhm.
It's a feel good. You go there and you press a button, press a couple buttons, and you're like, oh, I get a sticker that says I voted. I helped change the world. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
You didn't do shit.
Yeah.
The ideal thing would be if 90% of the American population refused to vote.
Yes.
Then that way the government would have no mandate. They really wouldn't know what to do, right? They would come on TV and say, we're doing this. 90% of the population disagrees. Hit the streets. General strike. Lock it down. Like, literally, that's what should be happening. Lock the whole thing down. The problem is, most of the population in Canada and the United States, that's what I can speak about because I've had students from the United States, I've had students from Canada. That's what I can speak about. I can't speak too much about Europe and all that jazz, but the general population is completely ignorant of history. They don't know. They know certain events, but they don't know what led up to that event. They don't know how that event unfolded, and they don't know the repercussions of that event.
Mm.
They just they just look at it as an event.
It's
So
a
it's like
date.
Sunday. It's a date.
Yeah.
It's Sunday. Let's do barbecue.
Yeah.
It's barbecue day. Like it's weird, right? So they have no uh, solid foundation context of how they're supposed to react when this is happening, right? Hence, temper tantrum.
Mm.
That's all they can do. They haven't lived long enough. They don't have the tools, the knowledge at their disposal to be able to put things into context and react accordingly.
I think.
And I'm generalizing, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's obviously corner cases to everything,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
but I think the 90% no people vote is honestly the best thing that I've never thought of that. But it makes sense. I always talk about like when a new game comes out or something like that. I'll review it. I'll talk about it. Whatever. If something I don't like happens, I won't buy it. And that extends to anything. And I always sort of try to preach like your money speaks. And if you don't like something enough, don't buy it. And that happened very recently, a couple of years ago, with a game that was a very big disappointment called No Man's Sky, and a lot of people didn't buy it, so they didn't make a lot of money, and that forced the developers to change what they were doing, and they changed the game around. And from what I understand, a lot of people went out and bought the new version of it, and it's a lot better and closer to what they expected. So in a roundabout sense, pay for your president, pay for your government with your wallet. If you don't like them, don't vote. Don't. I hate the let's vote for the lesser of two evils. I'm not gonna vote for any evil. I'm not gonna vote for anyone who's a pedophile or who might be a corrupt politician. No.
Yeah. And you don't and anyone that says you should write them off, right? Like Sanders, right? In 2016, He endorsed Clinton,
Yeah.
mass murdering war criminal,
Actual
mass actual
traitor.
actual traitor, mass murdering war criminal, responsible for tens of millions of refugees, destroying a number of countries, resulting in millions of deaths, and flooding Europe, different parts of the world with tens of millions of refugees, putting stress on the world. Like
Yeah.
this human being is one of the most vile creatures you ever met in your life. Not that I've met them, but by their actions you judge them,
Hmm.
right? Oh my god. And this person that was supposed to be the answer, support, said vote for this person? Are you
Yeah.
out of your mind?
They
Right?
might speak about great things and Medicare for all, whatever. But
Platitudes.
then yeah, they get you on their side just to sort of entice you, and then they go and endorse someone new and someone worse or whatever. It's
The
all.
problem is, yeah, the problem is just people haven't don't know history. They don't know where this leads. They don't understand how they're being played, right? Uh,
So I
what's
wanted
the solution to it? Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about news sources. This kind of ties
Yeah.
in because people also in current days don't know where to go for legitimate news, for non-biased or for news that presents if there's two sides, two sides to a story. Um, I find that I get the most unbiased news from Twitter because it comes to me in the form of videos, and I will actually watch what unfolds. So rather than read articles, I'll watch something, not commentary, but just live. This is
Hmm.
happening,
Live feed, yeah.
and that to me is the most unbiased because it is literally happening.
But yeah,
My bias might come into it, but
yeah, but you have to put it also into context, right?
yeah.
Like video can be manipulated, images
Mm.
can be manipulated. The precursor to the video or the image might be false, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I tell people, and it's hard work. Like literally, it's hard work. I don't think you can go to any news source to get an unbiased point of view.
No
All
way.
sources,
No
all
way.
sources are biased. I'm biased. You're biased. We all have a biased opinion, right? The trick to getting information that you can work with that can get paint a accurate picture of the world and what's going on is get information analysis from the spectrum, not from the left, not from the right, not from the center. You have to look at the spectrum, and you have to look at the spectrum on a level where the people that are speaking, they're speaking from the heart.
Mm.
They're not being paid to say what it is that they're saying. They're telling you their personal perspective on what's going on. And for me, I have I have people from the left, center, right, middle ground, all over the place that I listen to, and the far right, if you want to think about it, right? Some people would consider me being far right, which is, and people have said, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter." I'm like, man, you guys are dinglings, right? No, really, like just because I don't support the Democrats, they say you're a Trump supporter. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys
No,
got to be out of your
there's
mind.
gray there.
Yeah, I've had people because I defend WikiLeaks tell me that I'm a Trump supporter because they're like it blows my mind, right? Blows my mind, right? And they're supposed to be educated, like tech
Yeah.
tech savvy people that are programmers and like they work from home and they. I've literally been in a discussion with a friend where it got pretty heated, and because the person was reading RussiaGate crap, right,
Mm.
from the Guardian. I said the Guardian is a mag rag, like it's just
The
garbage.
Guardian.
Like yeah, like literally, I laughed in his face, and he got very pissed off. And I said, "Man, stop reading that crap. Like you're totally brainwashed." Or they get their feeds from Facebook, right?
Mm. Oh
So,
my God,
oh
Facebook.
my god, right? Like how can you even, and the kicker is the on Facebook they come across certain things that are like, oh, this thing happened and it did legit.
Mm.
Like this thing, okay, yeah, this one was legit. But that's one out of 50 pieces of news that they get. And that one is legit, but they won't get anything linking up to that story because Facebook prevents it from being shown.
Yeah.
It filters the crap out of it, right? So again, it just becomes a little reactionary, feel-good thing. I know, I heard about that. Ooh, very bad. But you didn't put it into context. You didn't link it up everywhere, right? Because voices are silenced on that platform. So it it's censorship, it's control. It's a long road. This is going to take forever. Is what's going on in the United States going to last a long time? No, it's not going to last a long time. It's burning itself out, right? It'll continue to grow, it'll continue to grow. But a real movement was started after the 2008 collapse, 2 years after 2008 financial scam. It's not a collapse financial scam, which was
Yeah.
Occupy Wall Street. Okay. Occupy Wall Street was legit, right? But because they weren't able to hijack it the way they
Mm.
have with BLM, right? I mean, Occupy Wall Street, you didn't see Barack Obama in front of
No,
Occupy
he
Wall
wasn't
Street.
there. Yeah.
No, he wasn't there holding hands and saying, yes, this is right, because he was a puppet and he took all those people that committed that scam and put them in power.
Yeah.
They were running the United States government, right? So you didn't see any of these DNC people and stuff going up there in front hijacking a movement because that movement was for real. That was from the ground up, right? A lot of the things that you're seeing roll out on online right now, a lot of the community activity and stuff like that, that is present right now, is directly as a result of as a result of Occupy Wall Street. A lot of people say Occupy Wall Street died. Occupy Wall Street didn't die,
That
right?
mentality of fuck the 1% is still around.
Yeah, it's let's create a society that is just for us, for everyone, not Wall Street. And
Hmm.
that mentality hasn't gone away, and that movement really solidified a lot of people's beliefs that we have to completely decentralize what's happening. With Occupy Wall Street, overnight they shut it all down across the United States because the word came out from the Obama administration, shut it all down, right?
Yeah, it
This
just sort
one,
of died out
it yeah,
very
the
quickly.
occupation,
Yeah,
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 the
yeah.
occupation died out, boom, done, right? And they planted homeless, they planted drugs, they did a lot of things in there to destroy that, the 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 physical presence in
Yeah.
the commons, right? So just because they got rid of the physical presence in the commons, it doesn't mean it went away, right? The the what was started there continues to this day, right? What's going on right now with BLM is being hijacked. Like I
It's
with that
insane.
yeah, with that picture of Obama and his family and some of the other DNC leaders standing in front of a protest with tens of thousands of people leading that protest. My question to those people is that were behind that front line,
Yeah.
right? Would you march with mass murdering war criminals for justice? Are you out of your mind? If it was if certain things were for real, right? Then when a mass murdering war criminal says, "I stand with you," you go get the
you
f
yeah, you get out of
out,
there. I don't want to
get out
stand
of
near
there.
you.
As soon as we get the changes we want, we're gonna come and arrest your ass and seize all your property, right? You have no right to be in our movement.
Especially
You're
at the
the
front.
problem at the front, not even at the back, even at the
Yeah,
sides,
yeah,
even endorsing it. If they endorsed it, you would go, "Hey, you're next. Your statues, wherever they are, they need to come down, right?" Like right now with the BLM, they're taking statues and symbols, right, all over the place, right? But that's being hijacked because they're taking stuff down that they shouldn't,
yeah,
really be
yeah.
taken down because they don't understand the context of it. But why are they starting with? Well, you explained it sort of because the last 40 years is not taught in school, I guess, right? But why are they taking attacking things that have been standing there for a while, people that are long dead and gone from like a few hundred years ago? Why aren't they going and removing statues of Bush Jr., of Obama, of the Clintons? Because they're the present day mass murderers,
Yeah.
right? You're going after historical mass murderers with zero repercussion, with zero effects to society. while the mass murdering war criminals that are present right now, that occupy your government, occupy your Congress, occupy Wall Street, occupy Hollywood, occupy Washington, D.C., you're letting them lead your protests? That is insanity. That is insanity.
That's how they gain control of it, right?
But
They say that they're on your side, and then they take it over and they lead it in the direction that they want it to go.
what did Bush say again?
Fool me
Fool
once,
me.
shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Is that it?
Well, he was trying to say that, but he
He
didn't say
fucked it
that,
up.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to quote it his way. I should write that down just the way he said it, so I can keep on saying that, right? He was trying to say that, but people are not learning their lessons. They are throwing temper tantrums and thinking because they're exhausted after throwing temper tantrums that they've done good.
Yeah. I think I just want to put it out there that the Black Lives Matter is a movement, whether it be, um, it obviously started from a good place, or well, a bad place, but uh,
Yeah,
a place of trying to improve things. I support it 100%.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
support this change coming through.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
as long as it happens. So
yeah, yeah. It's obviously change that has needed to happen that a lot of people were sort of blind to, probably myself included. Um, just because of access to information and things like that, or my own ignorance or anything like that. But I think that we need to take a page from the book of Hong Kong. They've been protesting nonstop for a very, very, very long time,
yeah,
and we China's a big bully to try and change with one little tiny place in Hong Kong, but we have places around the entire U.S. Um, still protesting that the media won't cover anymore, because now it's less about violence and there's more peace and things like that. There's still violence, obviously,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but it's been 2 weeks. We got to go on to the next story, and we have the manpower to actually make change,
Huge.
and we just got to keep doing it, and
Yeah,
keep people from burning out and being like, okay, well, this isn't changing anything, or this isn't helping, or like the media and various people in your family might say that, oh, because you support this, you're anti-American, or you're whatever, uh, Antifa, all this shit. Um, you
yeah. They
need to
try to
be.
connect it.
It's
Sorry, go.
I'll get to that. Uh, um, there's a lasting power that needs to be. You gotta be reinvigorated by something. We gotta see a little bit of change, and then people will keep going. We need to
Yeah,
just keep going.
yeah,
And I don't want to see the day where the last Black Lives Matter protest is just gone and over with. And I want it to be sort of like the mental effect that I believe that the Occupy Wall Street has had, where there's just always this thing in the back of your mind where you're doing everything you can to get away from that Wall Street occupation. Like I'd rather go buy a book from a used bookstore
hmm,
than Amazon.
yeah,
During this whole lockdown, I was so I was frustrated, obviously, because I couldn't go out and do stuff. But obviously, I knew that was important. Whatever.
hmm, hmm,
But I was frustrated more so that I couldn't support a local business, and that in order to get a book that I selfishly wanted, I had to buy it on Amazon.
yeah, yeah,
And there's always that nagging part of my brain that's like, okay, well, does this business affect the 1%, or does it affect everyone? And I think that everyone needs to get in that mindset about Black Lives Matter and police brutality and equality and sort of other general philosophical things.
and real things. I mean, the policing in the United States has become what the military has been doing outside of the United States for a very, very long time. This is and they're kid gloves how they're treating American citizens. Right?
Compared
That's
to,
baby compared to
yeah,
anywhere, compared to Iraq, compared to Afghanistan, compared to South America, Central America, compared to Africa, compared to the Middle East. Right? Look at what they did in in um, in Iraq. right? Like the Fallujah is a word, a name that should echo inside every American citizen's mind until the end of their days, right? Because Fallujah is a city in Iraq, right? And Fallujah uprising, the first uprising that happened, and this was kudos to Dar Jamal. Dar Jamal was a American citizen that was living in Alaska, right?
Okay.
When the first uh, when Bush Jr., Cheney, Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, the neoconservative PNAC movement, uh, Zio, Zio Christian movement that decided to do the whatever it is. We won't get into it, but there's a lot at play there, right? When they went into Iraq, right? Dar Jamal was an American citizen living in Alaska. And when this happened, he saw all the embedded journalists with the U.S. military, right? So they're embedded. They're with the U.S. military. They they're there to propagate propaganda,
Yeah.
right? So he said, okay, I couldn't stand for this. So he sold everything he had, okay, and went to Iraq as an independent journalist, one of the few independent journalists in Iraq. And he documented what happened in Fallujah. He put out a book on this, and he did a tour um, in Canada, United States, Europe, and stuff when he wrote his book and he talked about this. And I went to this thing in 2000 and I forget when it was, 2006 or 2006 or so. I went to it, 2006, 2007 or something, where I videotaped it and I uploaded those videos on my YouTube channel. One of the first videos I uploaded to YouTube, right? So Fallujah is an incredibly important moment in history. Okay, where the uprising began because four U.S. mercenaries, okay, basically contractors that the U.S. military had hired, paying with U.S. tax dollars, right?
Of course.
They were in Fallujah, and they opened fire on the citizens in the center of one of the places where people can conglomerate. There's just citizens walking around.
Sure.
They opened fire on them, right? They just started shooting people at random. They went crazy. Who knows? They were pumped up with drugs, whatever it was, right? Because they got speed going like mad, right?
Mm.
They need to stay. They need to stay alive as well, right? But they this sort of moral standard that goes away that says everything else is cattle, right? So they opened fire and killed a whole bunch of Fallujans, Iraqis, right? And long story short, Iraqis went in, killed the contractors, hung them from a bridge, right? Now you don't know this. There's video footage of them dragging the American contractors on the ground. This came out at the time, right? On the ground, and they hung them on from the bridge while people would be, spitting on them, throwing
Yeah.
things on them, kicking them. It was a bloody mess, right? The U.S. military decided to make an example out of Fallujah. They went in there with white phosphorus, closed the place down, biometrics they had going on there, right? They were taking biometrics of citizens coming in and out. They wouldn't allow people to go out, and they started bombarding Fallujah. And Dar Jamal has documented all this and whatnot, right? So that history is an extremely important history that every American citizen, Canadian citizen, Western citizen should know, but they do not, right? That is exactly the way that the mentality that it exists with US policing. But in the United States, it's kid gloves. Okay. Outside of the United States, it goes to that level, to that extreme. Okay. So that's blowback.
Well, yeah,
Those
they don't care because it's not, they're not Americans. They're not, they don't, it
they,
doesn't directly affect them,
I
and they
can
don't
honestly
know
tell
their
you,
own.
yeah, I can honestly tell you the the machine that's in place right now in the United States really doesn't care if you're an American citizen or not. Obama proved this. He droned, assassinated an American teenager in Yemen while he was sitting with other kids in a cafe in a courtyard. Like this is the president of the United States assassinating first the father of the kid with a drone, an American citizen, nationalized American citizen, and then his child, I think he was 14 years old at the time, 15 years old at the time, sitting around with, I think there was like a group of 6 or 8 of them in a cafe eating food. American President Obama, right? That was Peace Prize,
Yeah, yeah.
assassinated an American teenager in Yemen. That sets a precedence. The US government and the puppets in power and Wall Street controlling them, right? Hollywood propagandizing them, right? Washington, D.C. writing the laws for them, doesn't give a rat's ass about the American citizen. They don't. How could they? They don't care about American citizens. This is just lies. And I personally hope that citizens of the United States don't fall for it again, right?
Hope. That's a big hope.
Big hope. And it's not an Obama hope.
No, no, no.
I try to stop using the word hope as much as I can
Yeah.
because it was hijacked by
Yeah, yeah.
the Obama administration, right? It used to be a beautiful word, but it's not anymore, right? So there's a lot of history, and what we're seeing right now in the United States is a beautiful thing in regards to people waking up. They realize, oh my God, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Congratulations,
Yeah,
you saw the light.
I
Really?
hope that it sort of snowballs. And I don't want, obviously I don't want violence. I don't want
Mm.
people dying. I don't want any of that.
No.
But I hope that this mindset sort of snowballs into things that can actually help. I always forget the name of the project, but it was a study done by a college. I want to say Stanford, could be wrong, where students and people were put basically as
Yeah.
security guards and
Mm-hmm.
given a
Yeah, I
sort of
know the one.
yeah, like a pseudo power,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they think that they're better than everyone else because they're given a small bit of authority in one area, and then that's amplified with the police, and then that's amplified a million times by the government, and we're the people paying you. You work for us. My taxpayers, or my tax money gives you your paycheck. I am the one in control. If I don't pay it, you don't get paid. And
It
it's weird how that has somehow flipped. And we've allowed it to happen.
is bureaucracy.
It's
Bureaucracy is the enemy of humanity, really, because bureaucracy uh, allows people not to be held accountable.
yeah.
That's what it is. Like fascism, centralized what happened in USSR,
Hmm.
what's happening in the United States, what's happening in all centralized governments right now, is bureaucracy. Bureaucracies are the mechanism that drive genocides, right? If there is no bureaucracy on that level, centralized state, genocides will never be committed.
Yeah, a
And if
thing.
they are committed, they're they're going to be one-off events, and they're and done,
Hmm.
right? They don't continue over years because you need that machine to keep this thing running, right? So bureaucracy is the enemy of humanity, enemy of freedom, enemy of liberty, enemy of justice. Because right now, one of the reasons in the United States where police are not held accountable and stuff like this is because in the books it says they can't be held accountable.
Yeah.
Bureaucrats can't be held accountable, right? The FEMA representative in the United States in New York that came out after 9/11 and told people, "Oh, the air was okay. You can go out and help in the recovery and go back to your work and whatnot," right? Well, she knew that that was a lie, right? But she was protected by bureaucracy, right? That said, you can say whatever lie you want, you will not be held accountable. Her lies resulted in thousands of deaths of
Actual
citizens of the
deaths.
United States, actual deaths and suffering, serious suffering.
Hmm.
Their lungs became full of gook and concrete. Like if you work in a construction site, the last thing you want to do uh, is if they're doing something with concrete when they're blowing up concrete, digging it down, and stuff like this, or sanding it down or whatever it is, you don't want to walk by there.
No.
That that concrete, you breathe in, it goes into your lungs and solidifies, and you lose lung capacity.
Mm.
Right? That's what happens. People have died in construction site by sucking in concrete fumes, right? When they're sanding it down because they didn't have the protective gear, right? And people don't know this. In construction sites, uh, advice to anyone: start working in a construction site. Be careful. You'll learn a lot at a construction site because you know what it takes to build something.
Yeah.
Okay, get your hands dirty. Now that person, the I don't know if it was a female representative, it was the government representative that came out and said it's okay to go outside and do this and whatnot. That was bureaucracy protecting them, right? One of the reasons that um, during the Obama years, I believe it happened when Iraq, to, and even right now, the the agreement they had, the United States had with Iraq to keep the military there, was that the U.S. soldier would not be held accountable for anything they did, right? And after a decade of occupation, the Iraqis came out and said, no, from now on, we will hold American soldiers accountable for their crimes, right? And that's something that the United States didn't want to happen, right? So all of a sudden, when the Iraqis didn't accept those terms anymore, the United States pulled back a little bit. They should have been long gone from
Yeah.
Iraq, but they still occupy it,
Yeah.
right? They still occupy it,
For
even
no
though
reason.
they're internationally supposed to be held accountable, which they won't be as long as might is right, right? So we'll see where it goes. But that's one of the main problems in the United States. Same thing as occupying forces outside of the United States. They're not held accountable. While the occupying forces within the United States are not held accountable.
Yeah, I think accountability is the first step on a very, very long climb towards setting things right.
100%. 100%. Which is why WikiLeaks is extremely important.
Yes.
Transparency and accountability, the two things that we need in our societies.
There, I can't. I'm very bad with names and remembering
Mm.
things just in general. But
Names, me too.
um, the Burr is his name, maybe. Uh, Releasing a book that has been sort of
Bolton?
maybe
What's
yes,
it?
yes, yes,
John
yes.
John Bolton, the
He's
the
writing a book, I guess.
the guy with the mustache in
Oh, I don't know what he looks like.
oh the book that is supposed to Trump is trying to
Yes,
prevent from is John
yes.
Bolton,
Okay,
and he's been around since the 1970s, I guess,
okay.
right? He's hardcore Zionist, neoconservative, evangelical, but he's not. He's a psychopath, right? He was no, really, he's a total psychopath. He's worked for the Democrats and the Republicans. He is one of the secondary puppets.
Hmm.
He's actually more higher up than Obama, okay, or
Sure.
was, right? Because he worked with the Bushes, Bush Jr., Bush Senior, Reagan, Clinton, Obama. He was always there. Oh, Obama not as much. Obama not as much, right? They realized he was total toxic, right? Because anything coming out of the Bush Jr. years, the 8 years there, was toxic,
Sure.
right? Which is why they said, okay, they stayed away from Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, Cheney, and whatnot, and Bolton, right? And they attached themselves to the Wall Street people, right?
Hmm.
Because most people didn't know the names of the Wall Street people. So
Yeah,
okay,
at the time.
and
Yeah.
they're the same cronies as these guys, right? Halliburtons and whatnot. Okay, so it's the same crap. And what's happening right now? People, the 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 institutions in the United States that are trying to hijack a legitimate movement, ground up movement, are attaching themselves to the likes of Bolton and Bush and the other psychopaths, right? So if this is going to play out in a positive light in the United States, Canada, wherever it might be, they cannot allow these psychopaths to enter their fold. They have to make they have to l- let people know that those people, even though they support their movement, they are also the same problem.
Yeah,
right?
the same problem.
So same problem. It's we'll see where it goes. Seriously, it's a turning point right now. Um,
So this book gives me an idea. So I guess the overarching story is that he has quote unquote dirt on Trump, and Trump, he's on the other side of the boxing ring. He's like, I'm not gonna let you publish this book on me, and he, has classified some of the information, or some of it was already classified, and he's, you know, wiping it out of the book so they could publish it. And the thought process is, I know someone who mentioned a story that they parroted from Fox News about having this Bolton guy was under an NDA, and that's the reason why they're censoring part of it, and that there's no other ulterior motives. And the thing to me is, if I've got stuff on people, like negative stuff on very high up people, I'm not going to sit down and write a book. I'm not going to write 300 pages. I've tried to write books. It takes a lot of effort.
mhm.
I'm not just going to
If
compile stuff. I'm going to go to the courts, to whatever media outlets I feel I trust,
WikiLeaks
the WikiLeaks.
and
I'm going
release it.
to get that information out right away. It's sort of like the same frustration I was feeling with the whole Epstein stuff.
Yeah, oh my
Like
God.
that's another discussion for another time. But
Yeah.
there's information there that you don't hang on to.
Hmm.
If you hang on to it, you're pulling a political move.
Children's lives matter,
Yes. And
especially the ones who've been sexually abused.
yes, and now, well, I don't know how true it is, but Anonymous has claimed to have released more information about the Epstein stuff going on. But again, another topic for another time. The moral is, there needs to be transparency, and I think for me that need and that awakening came with Snowden.
Hmm.
I'm
For the Americans, yeah. For Western world to a certain degree, Snowden was a big event.
to me personally, I'm 26. I'm obviously every day you learn something new, and
Oh yeah.
every day I try to improve upon who I was in the past. And there comes a certain time when um, you wake up and you sort of start seeing the world for what it is, and you're no
Hmm.
longer a kid, and you're not happy all the time because you see how much shit there is. And this Snowden stuff really fascinated me, and I did so much research on it, and I'm still following it. And this transparency that was a crime for him to commit, but he still did it, and
Hmm.
he's still paying the price. Another president later, and even under a president that says that you should, have all your rights, you shouldn't be, you know, locked up for something that is for the betterment of the people and all this shit. Um, it's insane to me how you would want, as a human, you would want this information to stay silent, and it goes beyond, I guess, one person. These whole societies of corrupt people, but
Hmm.
it sort of stemmed for me from Snowden, because I don't know, it's just frustrating how these people go in roundabout ways to get information out, and how censored it is, and how
Hmm.
the people at like ground level, for me, um, they hear about it, but they're not critical thinkers, so they just sort of hear about it and parrot it, and it's just frustrating to get bombarded with all this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
and none of it, none of it's true. All of it's true. I don't know.
Yeah. The kicker is people like a lot of these organizations, a lot of these people come out and say, "Oh, we're going to release revelations. We're going to release revelations. We're going to." My my question is this: how much more effing info do you need to take action?
Yeah.
Really? Like, is this the one that's going to make you get off your get off your couch and do something about it? Like, how much more info do you need aside from of all places, Washington Post revealing that for the last 20 years or 18 years at the time, every administration was lying about the Afghanistan war, that
Mm.
they wasted 6 trillion, 8 trillion, whatever the hell it was, that they were lying to. They knew in the background that they weren't winning the war. They weren't doing anything other than aggravating more people, right? But they would come on TV and say everything's going well. We just need more soldiers and more money. So how much more info do you need than that? American citizens, kids being sent to die in horrid conditions, right? Being sent to places to kill other human beings and coming back home and they're totally traumatized, right?
Yeah.
How much more info do you need than that? How much more info do you need than a war of aggression, an illegal war, them lying you into starting a war that has cost a few more $1 trillion and by all accounts way more than 1 million deaths and tens of millions of refugees? How much more info do you need than that, knowing that happened in Iraq? How much more info do you need that there's a genocide taking place in Yemen, okay, with your taxpayer funded, your support, started under the Obama administration, right? How much more info do you need than the country with the highest standard of living in Africa being annihilated to a level where there's slave markets? Well, how much more info do you need? Is Trump pissing on some prostitute? Is that the one that's going to wake you up and make you go, ooh, now I should do something about this?
Nah, he was
Or
just being sarcastic.
no, he's being sorry. Or is it or is the millions of deaths that were created by these people in power, the tens of millions of refugees that were created, how- is that the one that's going to do it for you? If that's the one that's going to do it for you, you need to reevaluate your life and what is important to you and what your thought process is and where you are in the world right now. Because if you weren't appalled 20 years ago, there's nothing that's going to make you like really what's going to push you over the edge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've
George Floyd, like, sure, that's a trigger.
yeah.
Congratulations, more people are woke, but it's not just George Floyd. What about the Palestinians that this has been done to for decades upon decades, right? Why are American police going to Israel to be trained by Israeli occupation forces in the same manner that the Israeli IDF is brutalizing Palestinians to bring that technique back to brutalize American citizens? Why is that not being questioned? What? There's so much, so much, and any revelations coming out of Bolton is not revelations.
No, no,
It's
not at
it's
all.
just a, it's a talking point. Anyone that talks about that stuff, they're clueless as to what's going on. I personally wouldn't even engage them, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, let's say that publishes a book and they say, "Oh, look at what happened here." I just go, "Dude, look at this. Here, slave markets in Libya, right? But like, which one are you more appalled at?
Slave
Bolton's
labor
book,
in North Korea.
slave labor in North Korea, slave labor in many places in
Yeah.
the world, slave labor in China,
Yeah.
like slave labor in the United States. Why are we going to China? Why are we going to North Korea? Why are we going to, well, Libya is slavery, period, right? But the United States has slave labor within its prison system. Anyone that wants to know that, just read Chris Hedges' work, right?
Yeah, they make
Being
like a quarter an hour or some shit.
not even that.
Yeah.
No, not even that, right? It's slavery in the United States, period, but institutionalized slavery, right? That's where we are right now. So if people need any additional information to get them to be pissed, I mean, man,
I mean, I can speak for myself that I've always been sort of like an instigator. Like I remember
that's
when I was in high school, the college prep school, we had a uniform, and I was okay with the uniform, whatever, comply by the rules, whatever.
yeah,
But when I saw other students who, I was the poor kid from the town who got there from scholarships and things like that.
nice, nice.
But then we had the rich foreigners that came in and would wear whatever clothing they wanted.
Oh,
I was super mad
yeah,
because
me
I'm
too.
in these uncomfortable khakis and they're just walking around in comfortable jeans.
What?
So I would I would instigate like, okay, on this day at this time we're all going to wear jeans. Make sure you bring your jeans. Big
Nice.
mass protest. and I would always be the only one to follow through, and it would piss me
Cowards,
off so much. So
cowards, cowards.
when I engage um, someone that I know, or at least think that I know, to not be a critical thinker, which is I think what is the main problem with education now. People aren't taught to be critical thinkers. Um, if I think that they're not a critical thinker, I will engage them in the hopes that anything that I say will change their mind only enough to question what they believe in a positive way. Obviously, if they still believe it afterwards, if it doesn't agree with mine, if it does, it doesn't matter. I just want people to be able to think for themselves and not just sort of regurgitate anything that they're fed.
Yeah.
And it comes from a place like, if one event like a George Floyd type event is what it takes to wake you up, great. It sucks that there's going to be thousands of more events like this, or different types of events that it takes to wake people up. But I just hope that eventually a majority of American citizens and global citizens will start to do something, because there's one thing being an activist of voice. You can spread your voice and spread your opinions, and maybe people will believe them and help you in your cause. But getting your hands dirty, that's what's gonna help. Don't vote if you don't
Yeah.
believe in these two, because there's only two for some reason. These two people
There's
out of
only one.
yeah, there's only one. But out of 320 million people, these are the two that we're fucking stuck with. Like, okay, if you don't want to vote for those two people, don't vote. Do something.
Yeah.
Don't just say, oh, yeah, I might think about it, or I don't like this guy over this guy, but I might go for the. Don't do something
Yeah.
about it. Go out in the streets, do something about it.
I put out. I mean, the reason one of the reasons anyway. Um, I was writing, blogging politics and stuff in mid 2000s. Right. I kept on doing it for a few years, and you could see the writing on the wall that there's going to be more death and destruction coming. Right. So I got tired of. I wrote one of the last major political pieces that I wrote. I quoted Aaron Roy saying, "Look, I I feel like I'm repeating myself. I don't have anything really new to say. This is what's coming. So I'm going to stop writing in-depth political or geopolitical articles because I'm just repeating myself, right?
Yeah.
And then I freed up the time to do other things. Get into creating more videos, and then finally got into doing live streams and stuff like this, right? The 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 and then slowly, because people knew I was writing this stuff, when the 2016 elections were coming up, I kept on getting messages. Chicho, can you give us your take? Can you give us your take? Can you give us your take? And I said, oh man, I don't want to get into a politics game again, right? I don't like it because, like, for example, you're 26 years old, right? When I was 26 years old, I was engaging as many people as I could to try to wake them up. And you throw things, hopefully they stick. You're planting seeds, right? But as I've gotten older, I find more my time to be more productive in taking that energy and putting it towards educating my students on
Hmm.
math and creating content and doing different things and doing live streams and doing discussions like this on a larger, grander scale, instead of engaging people that think because I support WikiLeaks that I support Trump. Ridiculous, right? So I put out a video in 2016 where people kept on asking me, "Oh, Bush or Clinton? Sorry, Trump or Clinton? Trump?" I said exactly what you're saying, which is neither of them, right? Don't vote for them, right? And if I was gonna vote at the time, if I was an American citizen, I would have voted for the Green Party for
Hmm.
Jill Stein, right? Because she was authentic, she was real. Did I agree with her? No, on everything anyway. But I agree that the other two were complete psychopaths, right? Why in the world would you vote for a psychopath? And I mentioned in that video that the elections in the United States are based on fear. And they have been based on fear for the longest period of time, right? And this election is the same thing. They're feeding the fear. It's vote for this person out of fear, vote for that person out of fear. Don't live your life out of fear. live your life out of creating something novel,
Hmm.
uh, creating something that helps society instead of does more damage to society, right?
That's fair.
I wouldn't vote if I was in the states. I wouldn't. I'm not sure what else is on the ballot. I would take a look at what's on the ballot and who's on the ballot, and if I felt like there was anything there that I supported that was legitimate to support, that wasn't written by Wall Street or the lobbyists, then maybe I would go there and do something, at least tick one mark.
Sure.
But they should have a little button. And then in that video I mentioned, on the voting ballots, if they want to see more people show up to the vote, they should have a little section at the bottom saying none of the above.
Hmm.
Right? Just imagine if 80%, 90% of the population, everybody was mandatory voting. They all went, and 90% of the population said none of the above. What would they do now?
It'd be a big, hopefully, a big wake up call, and being able to say, I would like that. Like I want my voice of I disdain any option you give me currently to
Hmm.
be heard. Because if I don't vote, then maybe it's like, they think that my U.S. citizen number, uh, was sick that day or just didn't
Yeah.
decide to for whatever reason.
Or you didn't care.
Yeah, or I didn't care. Like,
Or
oh,
you
he's
didn't
just not
care.
into politics.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's no. I do have a voice and I do have an opinion. That's a good idea. I like that. Or I
Let's
could
do it.
write in someone. I could write in Vermin Supreme or something.
Yeah. Or go hold a little, uh, or go wear a T-shirt. I believe you're not supposed to in the U.S. and Canada anyway. You're not allowed to uh, do any political demonstrations within the voting district or whatever, a couple of blocks or something,
Oh,
right?
probably. I'm not
It's
sure.
something like that. But I don't know if you're allowed. Maybe the police will, you know,
Tear gassy.
tear gas you, right? But wear a shirt, go out there and stand there and say, none of the above.
Mm.
None of the above. They're all psychopaths. Just imagine if you were going to vote at a little voting booth and there was 1,000 people standing there with no shirt, with a shirt saying none of the above, holding placard, none of the above. They're all psychopaths. What would that do? What would that do to the conscience to wake people up?
I think that would be a really good movement. And we've got 4 months to do it. Let's go.
4 months to do it. Let's do it.
I can make T-shirts in that time. Let's go. Um. So
Uh,
I wanna change gears before we end, because
let's
I
do
I
it. Let's
do
do
I
it.
do want to talk about this a little bit more. It's still a negative note, but it's a little bit more positive than anything going on in the world currently. But you had mentioned a student wanting to go to Mars,
Oh
and
yeah.
I have said for the longest time I will 100% volunteer to be on the second successful trip of humans to Mars.
You're smart. You chose the second.
Correct. As long as the first one made it and they're okay, I will go.
I will go. Yeah.
And I want to be the first person to own a comic book store on a
Uh,
different planet.
I'll have a pull list on that one.
Might take a little while to get back, but
That's okay. I'll wait. I'll wait. I'll wait.
So I want to talk about. So you've been creating comic book content for fucking ever,
I, did-
and
I guess if you include publishing, yeah, since 1990. Yeah.
yeah, oh man, I read those books you sent to me. They were fantastic.
They were great.
They were
Seriously, weren't
fantastic.
like at the time there was nothing like it.
Yeah,
Nothing like
in
like
the '90s of all Deadpool and Turok and Conan and all these big beefy guys and this is a Marvel comic book and this is how a comic book should look. You've got this little old publisher coming out with this awesome. It was 3 parts, I think.
it was more. I have the fourth one, but I didn't have the funds to do it. At some point, I'm gonna release that online. That's for
Nice,
sure. But a
nice.
skater thrasher dystopian society where the United States has been divided up into different sectors, and this group is gonna try to travel from here to here, and they have a hovering car, and they're skaters with Slayer graffiti in the back. Like,
That's awesome.
Awesome, awesome. And Diamond distributors having a monopoly refused to carry it, right? At the
Yeah.
time, at the time there was 12 distributors I sent it to have the comic come out. 11 of them accepted it. Diamond refused it.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I sent it out. I think it was 11 distributors. I can't remember. I might have the file somewhere. But all the other distributors I sent it to, they carried it. Diamond Comics refused it. I made a mistake. I sent it in as a because I wanted to show them that I was for real.
Hmm.
So instead of sending one of the comics I was publishing at that time in, I sent three of them together, right? I sent Eye for an Eye, Starry Night, which again was a fantastic series, and Go Go Boy, which was a first uh, superhero LGBT comic book series ever,
Yeah.
right? And I believe our take was the reason because that was the first LGBT superhero comic book series ever. They said blacklist, don't carry
Hmm.
this, and don't carry the other one. So
Yeah,
they
because it was
trapped.
associated. Yeah.
It was associated possibly. Later on, we sent another book in, Mortal Coil, which was to me it was just image type of comic with big
Sure.
muscle guys and stuff. But I had to get into Diamond because I was trying to get these guys into there. But I'm glad you liked the book, man. I'm
Yeah, they
glad
were
you liked the book.
fantastic.
I loved it. I loved it.
So DC has announced that they are or have already split from Diamond and are doing their own distribution. And their comic books are coming out on Tuesdays.
Oh, they're coming out on Tuesdays now.
They come out a day early. I don't know when that starts, but there's been a whole big hubbub about it. Marvel came out with a bunch of comic book covers of their new or their current ongoings that are just a flat color that says something to the effect of "on sale Wednesday," as a sort of rebuttal against DC coming out on Tuesdays.
Okay, cool.
So I I am all for Diamond not being a monopoly. I was a manager of a comic book store for 3 years. I also worked in the store a year previous to that. So that's the extent of my comic book retail career.
Hmm.
In that time, it was very easy to see how much of an issue one distributor is. Between comic book damages, getting a hold of people, trying to order comic books, trying to distribute them myself, it's a pain in the ass to deal with
Yeah.
one person and one source. If the rest of our store had multiple distributors for every product,
Hmm.
a BCW like bag and board, you could get it from BCW or you could get it from a number of other distributors. It might cost a little bit more, a little bit less, whatever. But at least, if BCW was out, you could go get it from somewhere else.
You have
Same
a
with,
choice.
yeah, yeah. Having a choice, it drives prices down and it gives you the freedom of picking someone maybe closer. Um, I think I think Image needs to split. I think Marvel needs to split. Maybe the smaller companies like Vault Comics and some of the more like super independent, maybe Dark Horse and whatnot, should stay with Diamond because it's a name, and they need to keep their books in the forefront of people's minds with their
Hmm.
Diamond comic previews or whatnot.
Hmm.
But the big names could just as easily make their own distributor areas with all the money that they have,
Yeah.
if they care enough about comic books. And the only thing that I don't agree with is changing the day. Um,
Yeah, the day should be the same because that forces people to go in a different day. Some people are working; they don't have time to go in
correct.
twice to the comic book store.
I had people on pull lists that worked their whole work schedule around coming in on Wednesday when their new comics came out. Uh, they worked 5 other days in
Hardcore.
the week or whatever. Yeah, yeah. They
I
these are
love it.
these are the type of people who get like every single Marvel book, every single DC book, 20
I
books a
used to do
week.
that.
So they're super hardcore. But that's the type of person where they come into the store, they're in there for 30 minutes, you have their attention for 30 minutes. They know what they're getting. If you sell them something, it's a miracle, but you can work towards it. But you're not going to see them until next Wednesday. They're not going to come in on Tuesday. And that sort of crossover where like You know, uh, I sold a ton of Sideways. I don't know if you ever read Sideways.
Yeah, yeah. You
Uh,
sold a ton of
a
Sideways, really?
ton. I
Oh,
am
wow.
I am the biggest proponent of um, weird shit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
horror, indie, any sort of weird non superhero stuff. But Sideways, came into DC with this new age of heroes as this new weird wave of heroes. It's not Batman, it's not Superman, it's not Green Lantern. These characters that have been around for 60 years. This is something new and different. So I was peddling as hard as I could Sideways, just because he was a super cool character to me, to
I read the
Spider-Man.
first issue. It was fun.
It only lasted like 13 or whatever, but the villains were cool, the art was great. Uh, I sold it primarily to Amazing Spider-Man
Okay.
subscribers because to me and to a lot of people, it was very much a DC spin on Spider-Man.
Hmm.
He's not radioactive or anything like that, but he's a teenager.
Yeah.
He's got weird powers. He's quirky, whatever. He's just not Peter Parker. Um, so I got people who are hardcore Marvel to try a DC book, and that's all it takes before the floodgates open and they start reading
Yeah.
Batwoman and fucking Aquaman,
Yeah.
because all comic books are great, and once you break that barrier, it's done.
It's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
So having someone or having a DC book come out Tuesday, and then that Wednesday that Spider-Man guy comes out. By then, I'm either sold out or I have very few copies before the next time they come in
Yeah.
to pick up that book. And it just doesn't make any sense to me why you would break it
They're
out.
making DC's making the wrong decisions. I just regarding this their distributing system. I talked to the owner of the local comic shop that I have my pull list, just regarding DC doing their thing a couple of weeks ago, and he said he has friends that own a comic store on the east coast of Canada, and they ordered through this other distributor, and the other distributor, uh, it turns out they gave it these names that it's a new distributor, but it's not a new distributor. They're two major comic book chain stores
Oh,
that are actually distributing it, right? So he actually was ordering from two of the main comic book chain stores in the United States that are acting as distributors for DC Comics, right? So maybe DC Comics did this because they're going to order a lot of books from one place and whatever the distribution thing is.
sure.
But he mentioned that the other person that he knows on the East Coast of Canada, he ended up ordering from these guys. And by the time the shipping costs, everything was taken into consideration, he had to sell everything that he ordered, every single issue, to make like $3 profit, right? So,
Oh my god.
so, so obviously there's kinks in the
Yeah,
system,
yeah, yeah.
right? In the supply chain. So maybe they'll work it out. I didn't realize they're trying to release it on Tuesday. So that means people will have to put the DC books on on their pull list. How many people have a pull list? How many people pick up only their pull list? I don't. I pick up my pull list and I go on the racks and check the
Yeah,
racks, right?
check the wall.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, like last Wednesday when I went, there was nothing in my pull list because there's very few things being distributed right now. So
Hmm.
I went on the racks, found a couple of new things, talked to a guy. I actually talked to a guy that was there. I'll tell you the story. I was there on Wednesday, and obviously, they're it's not that busy, right?
Hmm.
And I go a little bit later because I have students in the morning and stuff like this. So I went there. I was the only one in the store at the time. I no pull list, right? So there's nothing there. Oh, pull list, but there's nothing in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
box, right? So I go to a rack. So I'm looking around, and I got some comics. I picked up some stuff. I'm looking at it because I'm chit chatting with the owners because I know them. It's nice people. It's a comic book store is an amazing space to be in, right?
Oh my god,
It
yeah.
really, it's amazing. My God, it's amazing. Amazing part of my life personally. That's why I create comic book videos because I share what I love, right?
Hmm.
I do readings of comic books because I've come across so many people who never read comic books. So I read the comics. I can't even tell you. I don't know how many people have sent me messages saying, Chicho, we started reading comic books because of your videos. We got back into comic books because of your videos, right? So I was standing there looking at the racks and stuff like this, and this guy came in and he looks at me and goes, Chicho. I went, yeah. He's like, oh, I just came across your channel a couple of weeks ago, or 2, 3 weeks ago, or something like this, because of the comic book stuff. And then I was looking at this, and we started chit chatting. And it turns out he live streams on Twitch as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's a partner on Twitch.
Nice.
So he's doing. So I hooked up his name is Blue. What was his name? He's in my part. Oh my god! Oh, I don't have my Twitch open right now.
Hmm.
Oh, where is it? What is his name is? I forget what his name is. Blue something. I haven't watched him too
I'll have to check
much.
him out.
Yeah, but and we started talking about comic books. He recommended a couple of comic books, and I bought this. This was a second issue that came out, so I bought the second issue. Went to the comic book owner. I said, "Hey, do you have the first issue of this?" We found the first issue of one of them. The other one he had to order. It was still available from Diamond, so he had to order it from there. That's the atmosphere. That's the
It's
comic
so
book
great.
world, right? That's the beauty of the comic book world, where you start talking with aficionados and stuff like this. So comic book community fans, even though there is there is conflict within comic book fandom,
Rivalries. Yeah.
rivalries between comic book fandom, but it's constructive rivalry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
people are very passionate about this and they trash talk this. It's like playing a game of backgammon with people. Like, oh no, this is you go back. So there's huge support. There's huge uh, love for the comic book industry in terms of the fans, right? However, the centralized powers that are controlling the supply chain, they're they act as censors, and they're the disruptive force, not in a constructive way. They're holding back the comic book community, the comic book industry, in my opinion. Okay, why aren't we, where comic books, the United States gave birth to the comic book industry the way we see it now, right? Why don't we in the United States and Canada have millions upon millions of people reading comic books the way they do in Japan,
Yeah.
right? Why?
It's a
Well,
great source of media. It's
great source of
it's
media.
an art form.
It's an art form. It engages both the left and, from what I understand, I haven't done too much research beyond, I think Deepak Chopra and Grant Morrison, I heard say this, right? So it engages both the left and the right hemisphere at the same time. It's an, it's a, it's a what I call a gateway for children to get into reading,
Yeah.
gateway for them to start drawing. It it is literally one of the most constructive, greatest mediums to engage people with, right? Because it brings out the emotion. It makes people fall in love again, right? It's not just a blip, but it's being controlled in a way which is destructive. We need to free that up, okay? And I think online, the internet, uh, has been providing that medium for us to do this, right? Like for me, creating my content with comic books, I've seen, like, I didn't know when I first did that, the first set of videos that I did, I planned it out, right? And this is one of the things we mentioned at the beginning. When you're doing something, investing or doing projects, you have to have short term, medium term, long term in mind, right? So for me, the initial set of videos that I put out for the comic books was medium set. It took a
Okay.
fair bit of work to do it, right? I was going to make an intro video. I was going to make show some of my collection. I was going to do a comic book haul video, and I was going to do readings, right? So the initial set of videos that I put out was like a, I don't know, six set series or whatever it was, right?
Sure.
And the readings that I did, I don't, I don't even know if I did anything of the superhero variety. I did, well, I did superhero, but it wasn't the mainstream ones. I did the first reading of Grendel,
Yeah.
first reading of Max. I did the first reading of Madman. I did the and uh, Basil Wolverton's from 1952, Eye of Doom, which is like the amazing Golden Age comic book. I did a Golden Age comic books of Jingle Jangle reading,
Ah,
and there was
yes,
one
yes.
other comic book I did as well. I can't remember what the sixth one was, right? But I that was what I did, and I didn't know where this was going to go. Like, I'm a guy with a goatee, a guy with a goatee making comic book videos, right? But the positive feedback I got from that was amazing, amazing, right? And it was just me sharing my love as someone, as a fanboy, really does. Someone that really loves something they've incorporated into their lives. And just creating these comic books, I see that there's a tremendous opportunity there for growth, right? But again, monopolies, centralized power is holding it back.
There's, I, I believe, an average Batman comic book now is printed in the 50,000 range. If it gets more than 50,000, it goes to second print,
Mm-hmm.
and a max life cycle might be 100,000 of a comic book, as
Mm.
compared to the early
That's
90s.
huge. That's huge, 100,000.
Yeah, that's like, oh my God, you've got a once in a lifetime, Walking Dead #1 or whatever. You got
Yeah, yeah,
something. You're starting something
yeah, yeah. Walking Dead
now.
#1, I think, was only around 8,000.
Yeah, it was very very low,
Very low.
but
Yeah.
it spawned something
Yeah,
great.
huge. Yeah, yeah.
As compared to the early '90s, Spawn #1 had what, 2.5 million copies printed or something.
Yeah,
That and there was that proportion of people reading them
yeah.
compared to now. And I don't understand what changed. I mean, obviously, the invention of the internet, the invention of
That's right.
smartphones and things like that,
Price point. It's expensive.
and price points goes from 25 cents a comic book to $1 to $4 and $5 now. It's a lot for a little bit, but getting people to understand that it's still worth it is
Mm-hmm.
a tricky thing. But in some points it's not, because I don't know if you read Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock. I read the first issue. Um, it was fantastic.
It was great.
Like the first issue I read was fantastic. There was so much delays in it. I didn't pull it on my pull list because you know
So Doomsday Clock, for those
I'm limited on
unaware,
funds too, right? So
it was a $5.99 comic book. It was a sequel to The Watchmen that had 12 issues.
mhm.
It started in November, December of 2017, and didn't end until November, December 2019. Typically, a comic book comes out every month. There were so many delays and so much wrong with it. It was like, do the people creating this book, have they ever stepped into a comic book store? Have they ever interacted with people who buy comic books? Because everything that they're doing is wrong. DC's doing it wrong. Marvel's doing it wrong. Diamond's doing it wrong. They're all making these dumb decisions that they're either for shock value or for monetary gain, and they're screwing over people so much that they just stop reading comic books.
And you know what people need to do is stop reading those comic books. Like for example, there's a company out there. What are they called? You know the names. They were charging 99 cents or $1.50 for their comic books when they came out.
Like number ones.
All of them, all of them.
Um,
Xterra. Uh,
I know there was a company doing that, but they were using newspaper.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They're using newsprint,
okay, okay,
which I'm 100% okay with.
yeah.
Like I wish I could buy instead of all these big publishers and all these publishers doing multiple covers,
Hmm.
right? Multiple covers of the same stock, same everything. DC is now doing heavier stock and a lower stock, 4.99 versus 5.99 or that crap, right? Instead of doing that, sure, make two alternate covers. Three, make 10 alternate covers. But one of the alternate covers, print them on newsprint, sell them for $1.50. You will see, you will see readership of comic books in the next few years kick up huge. Why aren't they doing this, right? Are they marketing morons, right? That they don't understand the market. That if I know that the market is there, right? If I was running a company, marketing branch of any of the publishers, I would say, listen, guys, this is what we're gonna do. Print whatever covers you want, pay whatever you want the artist to make those covers, make the exclusive covers for distribute. But one cover we're gonna print on newsprint, and we're gonna release it at $1.50. That has to be part of every issue that we release, right? You're gonna see more people coming to comic book stores on Wednesdays. You're gonna see the readership kick up huge. You're gonna see the love of comics come back again. Okay, because I know for me, if they were doing that, I'd be picking up the $1.51. I'd be buying more comic books.
I would, as a consumer, I would buy the $1.50, and if I liked it, I would go out and buy a cool cover that will last
Something
and protect it. Yeah.
your
I,
circles.
yes, yes. It's a it's and from a retailer perspective, you're gonna make the money from the cool covers. There are those people who are out there who specifically ask for variant covers, exclusive covers.
Sure.
You charge for that. That's gonna cover uh, any amount of cost that you might sink into a newsprint, and that is much easier to sell if it's cheaper. It's
And you're going to increase. You have to think long term. The problem with our current economic system, first of all, is what we talked about, is monopolies. Monopolies, like the United States is not a free market, it's a monopoly market, right? Period. End of story. Anyone that there's no
no.
monopoly. It's a monopoly system, right? You're going to eliminate the monopolies to a certain degree, right? Because there's going to be way more publishers coming out, knowing that there's a market. There are people that are willing to buy $1.50 comic, right, on newsprint, and newsprint lasts. Who
Yeah.
says it doesn't? Like, Golden Age comics. I have Golden Age comics. We read Golden Age comics. They're on newsprint. They lasted on newsprint from that period. They can last another 100 years, right? What's the problem with newsprint? It's all about greed, really, and controlling the markets. They don't. Most of the economic system in the United States doesn't believe in a free market system. The corporations don't. The government doesn't. It's about monopoly systems, right? Which is unfortunate. Which is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
It's any decision that they make just always seems so ingenuine. Like they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
they're not doing it for the comic book reader. Like as a manager of a comic book store, it was my job to keep people coming in.
Yeah,
I was the face, or one of the faces, and I was interacting and interfacing with hundreds of customers a week, and I saw more people give up on comic books than I saw people come into comic books.
Oh,
A-
that's unfortunate.
And those people that gave up, it was really hard, but some of them would come around to just say, okay, well, okay, you're not happy with Marvel, check out Dark Horse.
Yeah.
It sucks that these are your characters that you've grown up with, but comic books are still good. Just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
one company, leaves a bad taste in your mouth, doesn't mean that they're all bad. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
tough because comic book collectors and comic book readers are a certain breed of people,
Mm-hmm.
and for the most part, I think anyone
You're
can be
lovers. You're lovers.
anyone can become a comic book fan, but a comic book collector is someone who is really ingrained in comic books, and if you scorn them, they're gone, and that's it.
Yeah, to a
And
certain degree. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like if DC does something really dumb with one of their characters, they're never going to read that character again, even if Tom King picks them up and they're great, whatever. They're
It
just
happened
never
to
going to
me.
read it.
Yeah, it happened to me for sure. It's happened to me
Yeah,
for sure.
you
And
just have.
I regret it to a certain degree because I've turned down buying, like, for example, in the early 1990s, Marvel was pouring out Wolverine everywhere.
Mm,
Like, oh my god, I loved Wolverine. Wolverine here, Wolverine, Wolverine eating ice cream. I mean, oh my god, stop that, right? Oh, so ridiculous, right? I had the opportunity to buy the first appearance of Wolverine,
nice,
and I turned
but
it down
I
because I
see.
was so pissed off at them, right? And on the flip side, at the same period is when I was completely fell in love with Valiant comics.
Mm,
So the joy I was getting out of Valiant comics was so much. that I really didn't care about Wolverine anymore. It just forget about it, right? Just they're 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 whoring out something that I really love, right? It was a relationship we had. It's over. I hate you. Not that I hate you, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
to a level that
Over
I
it.
over it, right? And I was chasing the Valiant comics, which I loved, right? I was collecting those, and I still do, because I haven't seen them really. Actually, they did one issue with Faith where Faith had a showed up at a Hillary Clinton thing, and as soon as they did that, I dropped Faith.
Mm.
No, done with that, right? I'm sorry, don't introduce. Yeah, and comic books have been used for propaganda
Yeah,
since
yeah.
day one, right? I understand that concept, but it doesn't mean I have to consume the propaganda, right? Even though I may love the character, I love the character Faith, right? It's fantastic, one of the best characters out there, right? But I don't have to consume it when it's being treated in that way,
Did you
right?
read Punk Mambo?
Punk Mambo. I've read some issues of Punk Mambo.
Super
Fantastic
good.
character,
Yeah, super
super
good.
good, super good, man. Like seriously, valiant book. And that's my thing with people is you don't have to like you if you wanna if you're finding the publisher that you're collecting or the character that you really love has been not treated properly and you're getting sick of that, right? Stop buying that character that's being released recently,
Mhm.
right? Find independent, and I highly recommend independent publishers, like beyond anything, right? Find an independent, start sampling. You don't even have to find, start reading some other different types of comic books, which are going to eliminate the hate that that this company has generated in you, right? And I'm not saying give up on the character you love, but go back and buy their appearances from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, right? There's nothing stopping you from reading that character you love, but you don't have to buy the recent one that is
Correct.
being poured out, right? Buy the Golden Age one, the Silver Age one, the Bronze Age one, which is something that I do,
Mm.
right? Like I'm reading some of the more recent, sort of like there's a couple of issues. I'm not going to give names because I don't want to promote them, right? Not the big two anyway.
Sure, sure.
I read more of the previous stuff that came out than recent stuff, and more. The thing that I'm reading more recently of is all the independent ones. Not all of them, but as much as I can make time for to read. Right? That's because it's the industry, it's the medium that we love. It's not corporate alliance that should be front and center.
So there is a chain of comic book stores based out of Orlando, Florida.
Hmm.
Um, they have they've always been like a major voice in the comic book sort of realm of stores and store owners and things. And if final order cutoff comes up or initial orders come up, they always have opinions on how much you should go in on a certain book, or if a certain book's going to be hot, order more or order less, whatever. And they always have good insight on news that's coming out related to specifically the big two.
Okay, cool.
And they've recently, within the past year, partnered with a bunch of the more independent publishers like Boom and Vault Comics. I think
Ah, no,
Titan too. Um,
nice.
to
All of them great companies.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know, great companies, good comics, good
sure,
comics.
sure, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so they've done this interesting partnership where they buy a certain amount. A comic book store signs up on this website. I forget the name of this movement that they've started. You sign up on the website and you promise to buy, I think it's like 10 of an issue one from this publisher, let's just say Vault Comics.
Hmm.
You promise to buy 10 of this first issue and you sell it for $1 cheaper the first week that it's out. You get a little bit of a cut because you bought 10. You don't have to pay as much. And your customers don't have to pay as much either for the
Nice.
first week. So it incentivizes people to come in, on new release week or new release day to
Nice.
buy a cheaper comic. If they come a week late, it's full price.
Nice.
And it's never a huge commitment. It's not like, oh, you need to buy 1,000 of this book. Like,
Yeah.
no, you just buy 5 or 10. And that's enough to bring in a new title and try to sell to someone a couple times a week, and that you make money that way. And people start to build trust in a new publisher.
Hmm.
They get away from the big two or even Image, and they start trying out newer books, newer titles.
Comics.
Aftershock's fantastic. I met the head of PR came to the store of Aftershock Comics. She's a fantastic person, and
Yeah.
she came in promoting I think it was Brilliant Trash that came out 2 years ago or so. It was a pretty good book.
Hmm.
There's so many companies, there's so many people just creating comic books. It's an awesome time, and I'm trying so hard to figure a way back into the comic book industry. But I'm hitting some roadblocks, including the COVID-19 global
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
No one's hiring, so
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. The industry is going to go through some turmoil, and um, the, like in terms of collecting comic books, like right now and for the last 10 years, really, we've been in the golden age of comics again.
oh my god.
Like, oh my god, like people really don't appreciate the period we're in right now, which is absolutely uh, it, it, imagination explosion of the content being created, the writing that is being done, the art that is being presented, just the changes that are taking place within the comic book industry. It is beautiful, brilliant, exciting,
Mhm.
right? So, for example, you mentioned that 50,000 print run for Batman comics in general and stuff, 100,000. There are publishers out there right now that are producing books, number ones, number twos, first appearances, or whatever, that are that their print run is less than 5,000, less than
Yeah.
2,000. As a collector, right? As a collector, this I'm drooling over this. I wish, no, really, I wish I had an unlimited amount of funds to buy as many comics as I could, right? Of the independents, right? Because like there's comics out there that I've got in my from Valiant Comics, and these are we're talking some major characters. Valiant Comics of a run where 2,500 2,500 print run, 1,700 print run,
It's
17.
insane. Like,
It's like you're telling me that if in the future, at present, if anybody wants to put a run, a complete run of this character from this to this, there's only 2,500, 1,700 complete runs out there, right? Holy camoles, right?
that
Like for
increases the value like, tenfold.
tenfold if the character goes through the roof, right? That's
Yeah.
one reason Bloodshot number 51 fetches a high price, right? Like I looked at some of the print runs because we've done some of the mathematics and stuff,
Hmm.
connecting up the math videos with comic books and stuff like this. Like which are some of the most important Batman comics to collect? Well, the it would be first appearances for
Of
sure, the
course.
Golden Age, Silver Age, and key issues and whatnot, right? But if you want to put a complete run together, you should go into the mid 1980s. Those had some of the lowest print run Batmans ever, right? 45,000, one of them, right? I looked at one of the issues, right?
My
From the
god.
1980s, right? 40, so 45,000. So there's only going to be 45,000 complete Batman runs ever,
Yeah.
right? Uh, and those are going cheap, right?
Yeah. You can buy them for like maybe $5-10 if they're in
Less
good
than that.
condition. Yeah.
Yeah, good condition. Yeah, well, good meaning nice
Fine
condition.
and yeah, nice.
Yeah, fine. High grade. Let's say
Sure,
high
sure,
grade
sure,
condition,
sure.
right? $5, $3, $6, right? Meanwhile, people are anyway. Whatever it is, it's an interesting industry.
Hmm.
And collectibles will always be there. Will always be there, right? People
There's
are like,
always
"Oh,
something
comic
collecting
book
everything.
yeah, it's dying. It's dead." No, the model is changing.
Yeah.
Right? There's people going to be creating art, writing in comic book format until the end of humanity.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean,
Period.
it's
End of
art.
story.
It's art.
It's art.
Even without the art, a part of it, it is still art.
It's art. It's period art, right? So people become, the drama involved. Oh, it's the end of the industry. Oh, dude, man, no. It's like the stock market goes. Oh,
Yeah,
the stock
yeah,
market.
yeah, yeah.
Oh god, oh god. Like, right? And even right now, as a collector, I wish I had more funds. I'd go up and buy every issue of everything's coming out because the print run on these things must be pretty damn low.
Super low. They don't want
Super.
to risk it. They don't want to risk the money printing a lot because some might not make it to stores, some might not sell it.
And comic book stores, they don't have. What are they gonna do? Order a whole ton of crap to ton of comic books to sit on them so they could sell them when people wise up. They go, oh my god, the print run on these is really low. 5 years, 10 years down the road, and the price starts going up. They don't. They
No.
can't afford to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
The bread and butter of comic book stores movement,
yeah. Fluidity.
fluidity. Get stuff in and out as fast as possible. You don't want inventory to build up.
Yeah.
You just want to hold on to some of the issues later on, key issues. You have to, right? The good comic book stores, they'll they'll say, okay, we're gonna hold on to five of these, and the rest we sell. We're not gonna
Hmm.
hoard them all, right?
Hmm.
There's comic book stores I've gone to, you know, obviously, most comic book collectors know. Hot comic book comes out, the comic book store puts out one or two, and they hold on. Oh, we sold
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh my god, I wish uh, uh, I was more of an aggressive human being.
I know you've got some more back there.
Give them up, right?
So if things like that happened, like image number ones that were hot, or a new DC character, new Marvel character, whatever,
Hmm.
we would put a couple out on the shelf. We would first put the ones in the subs.
Hmm. Yeah,
100%
subs
they
you
get
gotta
that.
fulfill, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Put out some for sale for cover price. If it went above and beyond cover price, we would ask that people buy something in addition,
Yeah,
of a
perfect.
certain amount. By if it's a $20 new book, buy a $20 back issue, and we'll just give you this one.
Yeah, yeah. Limit
Or
one per customer.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, one per customer. We put some aside for people that we knew came later in the week that might be interested in it.
yeah.
That's a little bit of a gray area, but um, there's nuance. The
Yeah,
comic book industry is all about people
it
and
is.
interacting with people. And I think, to sort of circle back around, I think the big two and Diamond are just out of touch.
Yeah, yeah. They are. They are. From what I understand, Marvel, from the comic bookstore that I know here, he said that Marvel did right by them because they said they could keep 75% of the whatever the comic price. So they reduced Marvel's take, right?
Nice, nice.
So they allowed the comic book stores to keep more of the funds because it was during the COVID period and stuff
Mm.
like that. But that's, you know, throwing people a bone, really,
Yeah,
as far
yeah.
as I'm
We
concerned,
need more
right?
of that.
We need more of that. We need more of that.
When Marvel's getting Avengers money and toy money and all that stuff, they can give a little bit on the comic book side, the side that started it. When they're making billions and billions and billions of dollars off of Thanos and his snap.
Yeah.
It's
And that's Disney, right? It's been
yeah,
Disneyfied. So,
yeah,
yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. The comments, and like I said, we're lovers, right?
yeah.
We love the industry, we love the medium, and we'll even if we step out for a while, we'll come back as
Always come
collectors.
back.
Always come back, man. You always come back.
All right, Chicho. I could talk with you forever. There's
Yeah,
definitely things that I wanted to talk about, that we'll have to talk about in the future.
we do it.
If you want to quickly, as we wrap up, plug whatever you got to plug. Where can we find you?
The best place to find me really and support this work is through Patreon. Patreon.com/Chicho, CHYCHO. If you want to support this work, you want to follow what I'm uploading to all the different platforms. If you want to follow this work live, where I do live streams, it's Chicho Live, CHYCHOLIVE. And most of the other platforms, not most, but a lot of the other platforms, I'm trying to decentralize. So I'm active on
Hmm.
Twitter, Gaz, Minds, VKLO. I'm uploading stuff to SoundCloud, and most of that you can find under Chicho, CHYCHO. And obviously, I'm on YouTube. I've been on there for like a 900 plus videos on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot, a lot of stuff,
A lot of videos.
ranging from comic books to combing my beard.
I remember watching a video of you shaving.
Shaving and politics and
It's
economics.
fantastic. It's
A
fantastic.
lot of mathematics. A lot of
Yes.
mathematics.
Oh, I want to do a stream of the post-it game, the post-it
Oh,
note game, the 10 by 10 game.
puzzle. Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
do it, brother. Do it, brother. By all means. Creative Commons all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Share and share alike, right? Share and share alike.
All right, everyone. I will see you tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are celebrating the beautiful subs of this channel and playing some games. I appreciate you for joining us in this discussion. The Vexatious Podcast has become so at least once a month type of thing. It's a little bit tricky for me to get a hold of people and find time for people to be free enough to have an open discussion that might last more than at least 1 hour, a strict amount of time, because once conversations get going, you can't really sort of rein it in without being too much of a brute. And I like to keep the conversation flowing and keep it going. So hopefully the next episode will be out within the coming weeks, and I appreciate you for joining us. I hope everyone has a good day, and have a good one.